Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dream Leapers with Harriette Cole. I'm excited today because I have a very special guest, a woman I met just a few days ago at the fourth screening that I have been to and been a part of a wonderful new film called Albany Road. It is a family story, a community story, a story of just life and all the many twists and turns that happen in it. And this woman, whose name is Lisa Arrindell, is a featured actor in the film. So let me tell you a little bit about her. She's an accomplished actor, producer, and advocate for health and wholeness. Known for her captivating performances in films such as Madea's Family Reunion, The Sin Seer, and HBO's A Lesson Before Dying, Lisa has also left her mark on television with roles in Law and Order. And, we watch that. She's in there, Saints and Sinners, and as a resident acting coach for P-Valley. This year, she performed in Jubilee, an opera about the Fisk University Jubilee Singers. And as I mentioned, she currently appears in this beautiful film called Albany Road that stars Renée, Elise, Goldsberry, and Lynn, Whitfield. A graduate of the Juilliard School, Lisa has graced Broadway in Cat on a Hot Tin Roof and performed in numerous acclaimed theater productions. And beyond her artistic achievements, Lisa is a passionate advocate for health and personal growth, inspiring audiences and mentoring aspiring artists. She's got a lot of stuff coming up. She's going to tell us all about it right now. So please join me in welcoming Lisa Arrindell. Hi, Lisa.
Hello. Hi, Harriette. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's wonderful to have you. And I have to tell folks, without giving away too much, for those who haven't seen Albany Road, and we want everybody to have the experience of seeing it, but you play a role that is so familiar. The loving, non-judgmental family member who kind of takes everybody in with open arms and looks to nurture them and accept them for who they are. And I mean, I think that's such an important role. And now we're in holiday season, and I think of families getting together, and I'll say probably half of the people getting together are super excited, and the other half are like, oh, somebody's going to say something, somebody's going to do something.
Yes.
I'm going to show up because I'm not my best self, and someone's going to judge me. The role that you play is the one that kind of is the big hug and the nurturer. Can you talk about that role in this film, and what about yourself did you bring to that role?
Yes, Carol is the place where you always want to go, the home that you always want to go to. I'm blessed to have those family members in my life. There's one particular home where whenever I walk in, and this is my goal as a homeowner, right, as someone who welcomes people, and I really use this for Carol, I want you to feel that when you walk in the space, that the house itself embraces you, hugs you, that you walk into the vestibule, right? This particular home I'm thinking of, you walk in and you already feel, I am so loved. I am so seen. I am completely accepted. And I don't know if there will ever be too much of that in anybody's life. I really don't. I long to create those spaces in my own home. I long to be that woman where my most intimate, my children, my parents, and my dear friends. Although if I'm being really, really transparent with you, Harriette, I feel that our friends, my friends, will see my best. It is my children and my parents that will see my worst. And I long to be the one.
Let's unpack that for a minute, because it is true the people closest to you are the ones who can love you the most and hurt you the most, right? You care about them.
Mm-hmm.
And the people you care about, whatever they do, you care about it. But you just said something that's really deep that I think right now is important for us to think about, because we're at a time in our culture where there's so much upheaval. People do not know what's next. They don't know, you know, they're not sure where to place their feet. Where is steady ground?
Yeah.
You just shared that if your parents and your children and the people, your blood, the people that should be closest to you could be the ones to reject you, could be the ones to not give you that embrace. Where do you find safety if that is possible?
Wow. So you've asked you've asked a deeper question. Where do you find safety? And I think what I've been learning, not that I was really thinking about this, but what I've been learning, I would say deeply over the past 10 years of my life, is I must love myself aggressively. And for me, that means that I'm loving the one who created me, right? I have a very intimate relationship with God. I feel like I gotta know that we're good, that I am being transparent, that I am bringing the truth forth on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. It's a practice, right? When people say, oh, I practice yoga or I practice self-love, the practice means you're doing it, you're practicing it every day, right? It never gets, it hasn't become what the people used to say, old hat for me.
Right.
For me, still a thought, oh, I must spend time with Lisa today. Because if I don't, I begin to seek things from other people that invariably human beings will fail to give consistently. Not because they don't love us, but because they are imperfectly human. They are being human, right? And so it's like, I just finished having a conversation with my son where I said, oh, I'm so thrilled he's newly in love. And I said, oh, I'm so thrilled that you find love with this person. However, I want to be sure that you're not looking for her to be the answer to anything for you, and that you are not the answer to anything for her. Because as you evolve and grow, I've learned finally, those answers change. And if that person, if that person isn't necessarily evolving at the same rate, some of us will cast those people aside because, oh, well, you're not doing it for me anymore. Well, why was I doing it for you in the first place? What were you doing for you? You need to be doing it for you is the human being I'm working on becoming, right? I want
so deep. That is so deep.
Because I want to be doing it for me, right? Myself.
And saying that, I mean, I'm thinking about what you just said and imagining receiving that information. As much as your son loves you, that's probably an impossible message to receive. Like, how do you even understand this person cannot do this for you? I don't think you can understand it until you're good and grown. I could be wrong, but I don't know that you can understand it. Honestly, many people don't ever understand it because there's, and I know a lot of your work is spiritual, as is mine. And, you're talking about connection to the Creator that gives you the understanding of your greatness. That, like you say, it's a practice. It's like you have to plug in every day. It's like electricity. If you power up a battery, and if you don't plug it in the night before, it could go dead. Just like the connection to the divine. I think that it's
no, you are right on. And here's the thing: when the battery runs out on our phone, we say, "Oh, I forgot to plug it in." We immediately know what we didn't do. But when we haven't prayed, when we haven't sought God's face, when we haven't read, for me it is the Bible, when we have not spent time and sat in the presence of Source,
and we're shocked.
we forget that, oh, I'm hungry, right? When we haven't eaten, we go, oh, I haven't eaten. But
Yes.
we don't, most of us, unless your practice has become strong and steady, you will not immediately think, oh, wow,
I didn't take my medicine.
I've been self-powering through the whole day, and I haven't thought at all about how I don't have anything to give unless I'm receiving. I'm literally, for me, I always say, I am dust. I am so clear that I'm dust. And some people who are not comfortable with hearing what they think is self-effacing, I am God's dust. I'm very, very satisfied to be his dust. He creates beautiful things with dust. I'm so pleased, right? But the minute I try to do it on my own, I'm going to fail.
I've learned in my meditation community that there's this image that there are two wings of the bird. One is self-effort, one is grace. When you have both, then the bird can fly. Isn't that a beautiful image? And it's important, I think, because people need to know you are responsible. You have to take action. You have to get up and do whatever the work is. You cannot just, some people go, hey, I have faith. I believe in God. Therefore, everything is going to work out. I actually don't agree with that. I think you have to put forth a tremendous focused effort every day. And this is back to, and then plug in. And plug in. And one of the things that I've learned, Lisa, and I talk about this a lot, is when we start pointing the finger at others, when we, what is happening is your fault. You did this to me. Like you were saying in relationships, if it's not working out, but it's clearly the other person's fault. If there's something going wrong on the job, my boss is mean, it's so-and-so's fault, or my coworker this. When that finger starts pointing, what I say is to wrestle it around and point it at yourself and ask, what is my role in this? What did I do to get myself here? What is my responsibility? And then how can I get myself out? And when you do that, suddenly accepting responsibility and connecting to your faith, those together help you to be strong. Because sometimes if you look, what did I do? And then you realize, oh, I did a lot. I really messed up. Then you can just feel even more crushed by your own behavior, right?
Yes.
And that's not the goal. The goal is not to crush yourself and to feel ashamed in anything. No. It is to see the truth.
To see the truth, to see your power. Right? As parents, when we speak to our children, I know for me, I'm not attempting to crush my child. I'm attempting to reveal to them, you had power and you either misused it, denied that you had power, or that you just sat and did nothing. But you actually have power. Not what did I do so that I can blame, but where is I have a friend who says, which I really appreciate, that responsibility is us responding to our ability.
I like that.
I love that.
I like that.
I have the ability to do something here, and I'm going to act like that's the truth, as opposed to
and do something.
And do something. Yes, I'm going to do something.
I love that.
Something beautiful, something powerful. something where I'm not waiting for someone else. My God, I have to say, Harriette, it is how I set myself free in the past and how I set myself free on a daily basis.
That's a beautiful
thing. They don't have to change. I spent so many years thinking someone else had to change, Harriette.
Exactly. That is the point. Let me remind folks, this is Dream Leapers with Harriette Cole. We are having a very deep conversation, which I love the most when we go here with Lisa Arrindell. She is starring in this wonderful film, Albany Road, and there's some Oscar buzz about this film, about our beloved Lynn Whitfield, who is just plays perhaps the best role of her life, and the whole cast is just exquisite. And so Albany Road is what brought Lisa Arrindell to talk to us. But as you see, we're talking about everything. So Lisa, I want to know how, as an actor, you've been in this game for a long time, worked on lots of projects over the years, and I got to see your reel. So as we were digging around, looking at different things that you've done, and I recommend that people take a look at it. It's fun to see you in all kinds of roles. How has spirituality played a role in the evolution of your career?
Many people will compliment me. Oh, Lisa, your body of work, what you've chosen to do is just it's wonderful. The choices that you've made. And I'd love to take credit. I would love to. But the truth is, Harriette, that God has kept me from so many things that I would have said yes to because I thought, I've got to keep going until my big break. I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to make myself available for everything. But, early in my career, I knew a couple of things. One of them was I come from people who love the Lord. I come from grandparents and great-grandparents, right? My grandparents, I always knew there is nothing that I can do that I will be able to explain to them. The reason I did that, Grandpa, the reason I did that, Grandma, is because, I had to pay the bills. Because I had to make it happen. It's for my career. My grandparents would have had the deadpan look with confusion.
Yes.
You had to do what? Right? Because I grew up, which I know many young men and women do not have this. I grew up understanding I wouldn't ever be hungry if my grandparents or my parents had food. I wouldn't ever be without a roof over my head if my family has a roof over their head. I could find a corner somewhere their home, that there was no good reason to do any work that would bring shame to my family, right? And I am first generation American. I come from immigrants. And so I know that there's a special drive that people who come from out of America to America, right? That this place is the dream for many people coming from outside of America. And so that's where I come from. And it's because they love the Lord, and He was so kind, so gracious. You use this word grace. You said one wing is grace and the other wing is self-effort. I know it was many, many years of being an adult before someone explained to me that the word grace isn't something pretty. It actually means you are receiving what you did nothing to deserve. You did nothing. You can do nothing more to deserve it. It is simply given. That's what grace is. And
it's a direct line to the divine. It's that shower of greatness that makes the world go round, that makes it possible for us to be.
Yes.
Right?
And so many young people don't know you already are exactly what God had in mind. You're not he didn't half do you. He didn't run out of stuff when he was making you. He didn't put you in here hoping that you'll figure it out. He's not wondering, are you going to make it? You come from a great deal of planning and love. That's what you come from. That's what you start with. What you add to that is that other wing. And please add.
Right.
But you
That's
start with so much beauty and power. And we come like as people, all of us, people of color, my company, like what I do right now as a filmmaker is all of my work. All of my work, I'm very clear now in my life, at this season of my life, I want my work to illuminate all of it, a substantial, original, historical base. Because I am convinced that as people of color, we have been sold this lie and we've bought it, that we're trying hard to get somewhere. I want to say we already been there and we forgot. And the history books are being rewritten to act like that's true, that we haven't gotten there. We have already been at the head of schools, the head of government. Before we lost our rights during Reconstruction, way back when, we were congressmen. Like, we are so intelligent. We have already been millionaires, are millionaires now. But media keeps rehashing this idea that if we just keep working, we're going to get there one day. We already been there and we forgot. And,
well,
and my work reminds us that we are great.
Good point, Lisa, that is difficult to get past in this life we live in now, with social media inundating us with algorithms showing people what they looked at, and so, oh, that's what you believe, I'll take you down that rabbit hole and you'll keep believing that. What is the truth? That is one of the biggest questions that is difficult to be answered. What is the truth about people of color, in particular people of African descent? If you don't know your history, if you don't study history, not from one book, but looking at a range of scholarship to get a very good sense of how the world has worked, then you can't know. I mean, I went to Howard University. I'm from Baltimore. I grew up in a predominantly Black neighborhood. I learned a lot of things, but until I went to Howard, there were so many things I didn't know. Because in Baltimore City Public Schools, they did not teach anything about Black history when I was growing up. My daughter grew up in New York, and where she has gone to school from elementary school on up, they did teach it, which is amazing. Not every school does it even today. But at one point, she even said, Mommy, in high school, all of the literature that we're studying is Black literature. I don't understand why. I said, just be grateful, because it means that somebody understands the consciousness needs to be awakened about the whole story. But as you are describing and the work that you're doing and the work of this film, Albany Road, it's true in this story as well. It's certainly true in Christine Swanson's company, FaithWorks. You can tell stories through a very positive lens that are true. And that represent people authentically, particularly people of color. And there's a hunger for that kind of storytelling.
Yes, absolutely. The film, we haven't talked about this at all yet, but for my birthday this year, I produced 7 pages of a full-length film that I wrote. So I produced 7 pages, and it's about a family that lived during the turn of the century, first African-American millionaires in Atlanta, born enslaved, the Herndon family, born enslaved. When he passed away, he was a millionaire. And here's the thing, not satisfied with his own freedom or his own prosperity, but spent his life seeking economic dignity for African Americans. So when he died, there were 1,000 people all over the country employed by him who were what they used to call well-to-do, right? The elite. Yes. We are his wife, an educator, the founder of the theater department at what is now, what used to be Atlanta University, right? Like, we're stunningly beautiful, educated people. But it is, I'm not trying to be subversive, Harriette.
It's okay.
It's a plan. This idea that you remove the truth from a people, right? We see it's a pattern. This idea, and it opens my short film, right? Because I did a proof of concept, because my dream, the reason I want to talk about it is because your show is Dream Leapers. The dream for my life is that I'm definitely going to be producing this full-length feature film about our greatness, not about the dream of greatness,
but the reality.
We've already been. We've already been this. This man died in 1927, and his company still exists. Nobody tells us about that.
Absolutely.
Nobody tells us about that. The film opens with this quote. Willie Lynch, I don't know if you're familiar with.
But let folks know, because they may not.
So I'm going to tell y'all, and I'm going to also say that people have said, they've tried to debunk that this person existed.
That's true. Yeah.
And I'm cool with that. You can go ahead and debunk it if you want to. Go ahead and try. But the language used is so accurate to what actually exists.
Right. Whether that man existed or not, the sentiment was,
the doctrines exist 100%, worth your reading, right? The Willie Lynch papers.
Yep.
So at the end of these papers, after he has taught people who enslaved African Americans how to maintain their imprisonment and to increase their human inventory. Let's be clear, because that's what we were.
Yes, indeed.
At the end of it, he says, there is a caveat. For they say, I don't know who the they were, but even Willie Lynch had a they he was referring to, like we all do. They say that the mind has a strong drive to correct and re-correct itself if it can touch some substantial original historical base. And so the caveat is, keep them away from substantial original historical base. Keep
knowledge, education. That's why education. Oh, why do we need a Department of Education?
Oh, we don't need that. Absolutely not. No.
Colleges and universities.
No. We don't want people to feel bad about their history. What?
Oh, no. Let me remind folks, this is Dream Leapers with Harriette Cole. We are going deep, deep, deep. And I love it here with Lisa Arrindell. She's in the film Albany Road that is out now. She's telling us about a proof of concept that she's created to work on her own film, her dream, that she is working to manifest. And, we talk about dreams all the time here on Dream Leapers. In fact, the reason that this show exists, Lisa, so there are two sides of Dream Leapers. I do coaching and workshops, one-on-one, and also workshops with people to
Mhm.
help them access and activate their dreams. That's what Dream Leapers is all about. So from meditation, vision boarding, and bringing in experts of all different ways, from how to finance your dream, how to market your dream, how to collaborate with people, all of that. And then I started the show a number of years ago to talk to people who are manifesting their dreams so that
Yes.
folks can see this is how they do it. This is what the story has been for me, because as you are describing, it is a journey that has many twists and turns. Life does not go in a linear fashion. But what I appreciate about you and why I wanted you to come on is, at your core, it is very clear that you are grounded in that connection to the divine. And that to me is really important. I think that's how we prosper and others can prosper around us. Now, some people prosper at the expense of others. I'm not
Mm.
interested in those folks. They can tell their story somewhere else, you
Yes.
know?
Yes.
But I wanted to ask you something, because you mentioned that your parents are immigrants.
Yes.
And I mean, look, the United States is made up of immigrants. My husband's from Jamaica, so he was born there and didn't come here until he was 14, I think. Uh,
Mm.
Immigrants are under attack right now
Yes.
in a ferocious and inhumane way, I think.
I
I'm
agree.
Yeah, I'm curious for your family and other families, like personally, how are people reacting to the uh, kind of v- repulsive energy that seems to exist in this country about immigrants and whether they should be here or not? What are your thoughts and the people you love about this?
So I would have to say that my family, because they have been here for so many decades now, my mother came when she was 14,
Okay.
from Aruba.
Hmm.
Um, I think that they are not upbraided so much by the wickedness that is being launched against immigrants specifically, because that's not even at the top of the list of the wickedness that's being proliferated. There's just so much right here, right now. Being here in New York,
Right.
there's so much hatred,
Mhm.
um, underhanded dishonesty, uh, this desire to other every single person that we can. How can I make you feel? How can I make myself feel better by othering you? And
Yes.
unfortunately, one of the tactics is that those who are in the highest degree of power don't even need to other everyone themselves. They teach those of us who are benefiting in some ways still, who are not at the bottom of the ladder. They teach us how to other. So we do the job of othering,
Sure.
that self-hatred that we do to one another for whatever the reason is. Oh, you're not as educated. Oh, you're not the same skin complexion. Oh, you're not, whatever it is. Whatever it is, the fact is we're missing that you are a human being. You're human. That when you have a child, your heart is made open in a way that is not describable. And yet, anyone who's had a child knows what that is, no matter what color they are. How can we be okay with anybody othering children? How can we be okay with how can we not recognize that every attack against someone makes the attack against me in the future much closer? I am connected. I am absolutely connected to the person who's being attacked. I don't want to be,
Right.
but I would be a fool to think that that's not going to affect me eventually in some way.
It's such an interesting thought, and it provokes another thought in me as someone who lives in New York City, and there's something that happens in New York City that's almost the opposite of what you're describing. Like, in order to survive here, you can't see everybody. You have to learn how to have a bit of tunnel vision to be able to walk down the street. And not, like, I grew up in Baltimore. In Baltimore, you don't pass a person without greeting them. You do not do it. It's the rudest possible thing is to pass a person and not have some acknowledgement. And Lisa, I want to tell you, when I first moved here, so I worked for Essence magazine, and at the time Essence was in Times Square. This is in the 80s. It was not pretty in Times Square like it is now.
No.
And there were XXX stores and this and that. And I
Yes.
remember early on walking down the street and people would say hello to me. And I was like, oh, good morning, cute little 20-something me. And then people started following me down the street because that is the neighborhood I was in. And I quickly learned, oh, you cannot, not even just you can't speak to everyone, you can't see everyone. And so this is sort of this odd juxtaposition that I'm getting at here in what is often considered the greatest city in the world, the most diverse place that I've ever been, where we walk side by side with people of every possible background. And I live in Harlem, so it's very much that.
Yes.
We also don't see a lot of people in order to survive. Just because there are too many people, you can't see everyone, you won't get your tasks completed. And so we have this tunnel vision to survive, and we have this connection to humanity that says, don't have tunnel vision, have open arms, welcome everyone. I think that this is real, it's human nature, it's whatever that we could call that, but here's this juxtaposition. And how do we keep the open arms and live our lives? We have to have some tunnel vision, a little bit, but we don't want to ignore the person with no food sitting on the corner. But if we give money to every person on the corner, we won't have any more money, and they won't be better anyway. Okay, so that's
yes
a reaction to that.
It is I haven't figured that out, Harriette. I really haven't. I mean, because I am that woman that has learned I don't want to answer fine when somebody says, how are you? Fine. I teach my students as actors, I want you to start noticing that you smiling is a shield. It's a way to keep people away from you. When you're on stage and you're doing this, you're actually not allowing us in. And I want you to start seeing it's because that's what you practice in the world. Hey, how are you? Great to see you. Hey, how are you? You're not asking a real question. You're not even pausing to hear the answer, right? Like we learn how to not be connected, but the practice has to be, how do I ask the Starbucks person before I start giving them my order? Hi, how are you today?
That's right.
And really, for me, it's breath. I inhale to remind myself. That's a pause. Which I loved how you started your show with I asked you to join me for a moment. I was like, oh, I'm going to take a breath. Yeah. Take a breath. What happens when you notice the other human being across from you? And I know, then I walk out of the Starbucks and there's someone at the corner with all of their worldly possessions in bags, freezing. And no, I don't talk to everyone, right? I don't. But it's like, how do I help myself not be put to sleep by the protective layer? Because here's the thing about us, what that I believe. How we do one thing is how we do all things.
Indeed.
And so if I'm shutting down to human beings in the street, where am I doing that in my intimate life? Which is a constant, I got to stay awake and pay attention.
Yes.
Am I really asking the people that I am closest to? Am I really asking, how are you? Like my son today, before we started with, my son had to tell me, Mom, I just want you to listen to me.
Mm.
And I was like,
okay.
Got it.
And that's when you take a breath.
Yes.
Talking.
He was like, I got you, Mom. I just want you to listen to me. And I was like,
how old is he?
He's 28.
Beautiful. Well, I mean, how great that he wants you to listen to him.
Oh my God, I'm so honored that my children desire me.
Yes.
I really, for me, that means that something that I reached for as a parent raising them. And this, we talked about this earlier. I remember hearing our pastor talk about this when they were little. He said, right now, you don't want your kids to be your friends. We're not friends. But one day you're going to want them to come look for you, to be your friend. How do you do that as you're walking beside them when they're children? Mm-hmm. And he said, well, who in this room doesn't want to be seen, to be listened to be accepted and deeply loved? Who's going to dismiss that? Nobody. Not nobody. Everybody's going to grow up, and that's what they're still looking for. But it's, if as parents, we don't do the transition of, now I don't have to give advice unsolicited. Now I have to listen and say, and how do you say more about that? How do you feel about that, what you just said?
When you say that, Lisa, when you say that, it takes me back to this film, Albany Road.
Oh, yeah.
Stellar performance at Lynn Whitfield.
Oh, my gosh. She's brilliant. She's brilliant.
Yeah, she is. And without giving too much to folks who are tuned in, what we see in action is kind of what Lisa's talking about. It's one thing to understand that you shouldn't tell your children what to do when they're adults, that you should listen and find ways to give your input without meddling. And then there's the reality that for lots of reasons, some parents find themselves meddling, find themselves overstepping. And then when they're lucky, they have a moment of awareness and then try to figure it out, because life is messy. We have the things that you're describing that are so important are true. How do you honor your children?
Yes.
And provide them with wisdom without overwhelming them. And in real life, for many people, it's messy. It's a dance, and sometimes you step on each other's toes, and there's all of that. And in this film, you get to see some of that and how it's reconciled. It's, again, a beautiful film to see. But in life, as you're describing, as I'm listening to you, I'm hearing experience, because I am sure there's been stumbling for you with your children, because that's how it goes. That's how it goes.
Yes, I've said to both of them, I have an aversion to the word obvious, which is a word that the young people like to use. If that's obvious. And so I say to my kids often, it isn't obvious to me. And And you don't want it to be obvious to me, because if that's obvious to me, then other things that you want to inform me about, other things that you want to educate me about, other things that you want me to be open about, I'm not going to be open to them, because I'm going to be training myself to believe, oh, that's obvious. Of course you did that. Of course you think that. Why wouldn't you do that? That's me expecting you to be like me. I'm working as a parent of adult people to ask real questions that I don't know the answers to. Even if I have my own answers, how do I practice treating you like you are an individual and not somebody that used to inhabit space inside of me?
Big
How do
thought.
I do that, right? I have to practice. And so you being upset with me that it wasn't obvious, I didn't make it obvious because I wanted you to give me the information about your experience. I didn't want to assume that you did it the way I thought you should do it, which is what I would have done when you were 15 or 17, because you were still living in my house and you do it the way I say or else. But now you got your own home. So I don't need to act like I know. I need to act like I want to know. Tell me about that.
There's a lot in that statement, my dear. Okay, we've got like a minute left. I want you to tell us, what should we be looking for next from Lisa Arrindell?
Oh my gosh, I just last week came home from doing a film with Michael Jai White that is called The Secret Between Us. That was the working title. That's supposed to be coming out around Father's Day. So I'm really excited about that, because it's a beautifully written story where I get to play the mom to Michael Jai's dad. We are a beautiful, I love Black love. So we're a beautiful, loving couple. And so that will be out soon. Please listen for that. Wherever Albany Road is going to be streaming, because I know that we're not finished. We've done with our theater release.
Right. And then you were in AMC theaters all over the country.
Yes.
And now, because now, just for people to understand, theater runs are often short, but right after the theater run, it comes on streaming services, and we're just waiting to see where.
And you want to find that film, y'all. Believe me, they didn't use the money that they used to do the film, because this is 100% Black, independently done film that does not look like an independent film at all. I mean, it is so richly, beautifully shot. You have to see it. That's all I can say. It's an experience that you will be happy you had. You got to see it. Albany Road, starring Lynn Whitfield, in the most beautifully written, beautifully acted story about us. It's about us. It's about us. And you could plug any human being in those stories and it would be relevant. But we get to be, Christine Swanson, writer, director, and her husband, Michael Swanson, executive producer, just a brilliant couple who put work on the screen that reflect that brilliance. So
and how do people reach you? What's your website?
Oh, so you definitely want to go follow me on Instagram, find me on Instagram, just my name, Lisa Arrindell is my handle at Instagram, one word, Lisa Arrindell. And my website is my name, lisaarrindell.com. Go find me there. You will find things that I have done, things that I'm about to do. You'll be able to read my blog there. You'll be able to find merch, because I'm always telling y'all, you're exactly what I have in mind. And then you'll be able to hear about An Extraordinary Life, which is the film that will be manifested, because I know God is not a liar. It's a beautiful film about a real life African-American triumphant, victorious family.
Well, thank you. It's wonderful to meet you and talk to you. Thank you for opening your heart to us. I certainly appreciate it. I'm sure everyone tuned in appreciates it too. Thank you,
Thank
Lisa.
you, Harriette, so much for inviting me. You are such a gift. I appreciate you.
Same here. And thank you to all of you for tuning in. I told you it was going to be great to listen to Lisa Arrindell. I hope you are as inspired as I am. Until next time, have a great day and make it count.